Welcome to the Bikini Things podcast, where we talk about everything from fitness and competing to mental health and living a healthy lifestyle. I'm your host, IFBBPro, Laura Morche, here with IFBBPro, Sammy Joe. We are so happy you're here with us. Let's get started. What's up, Sammy?
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. Happy Friday. How are you?
Yeah, happy Friday. I am doing good. We are almost 2 weeks out, so we are just chucking along. I'm alive, so
yeah,
we're there.
Yeah, I understand. You're 2 weeks out. That's right. That kind of says
I'm
it all.
simply existing at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. How was your 4th of July?
It was good. Jacob had a race, so we were at the track all day yesterday, literally from like 11 a.m. to probably 10. But the fairground right next door, we were only there that late. Like the race was over at like 8:30. But the fairground next door to the track had fireworks, so we stayed and watched the fireworks. So that was nice. They had it was literally a solid 20 minutes of fireworks, which was pretty crazy. Nice.
The people in my neighborhood really go ham on fireworks. 4th was good. I have a prep client here, so she planned a last-minute trip to get some extra help with training and posing, and I'm just having her stay in my guest room for simplicity. So I've been bringing her around to the gym with me. She obviously has to do way more cardio than I do in off season. So just making sure that she has everything she needs. So she came with me to Chris Psycho's yesterday. So we had a good little morning. She got body work as well, cardio, all that, the full experience. And then we went to the Lifetime Fitness pool party, the 4th of July pool party that they had, which was really well done. Yeah, it was really well done. They had a DJ, they had an ice sculpture, like balloons, decorations. You know, people were. I saw before I left, like they have cabanas out there. So I haven't actually been to the Lifetime pool yet. There are people doing shots off the ice sculpture at one point. I was just napping in the sun. I just wanted a nap. That's what I did. So that, and then did my normal Thursday check-ins. I'm still gotta stay in touch with everyone. And then the fireworks in the neighborhood were really solid. People go really crazy. So it was awesome. Yeah, it was good.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good day. 4th of July is always a good time. Awesome. Yeah. So it'll be exciting to see you on stage soon. And yeah, I imagine just where you're at right now, it's that point where we're just pushing through and taking it day by day.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So it'll be fun to be there. Yeah, you'll make it. So we have more Q&A that we didn't have a chance to get to in our last episode. So, and some of these I think are going to spin off and become their own episodes because there's a lot we can go into, especially with topics like training, supplementation, etc. But we wanted to circle back and cover more of the questions that we thought would be valuable for everyone to hear about. So, Sammy, would you like to start? Would you like me to jump into it?
Yeah, I have one that I think is really good and very relevant, I think, for the both of us. Planning to transition into prep in a few months. Should I start posing?
I would say yes, absolutely. Especially, they may not have indicated if they're a first-time competitor, but even then, even if you're experienced, you should start posing in your off-season, refamiliarize yourself with it. You might realize as your physique has changed, if you are a previous competitor, that different angles and transitions actually flatter you better.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely recommend that.
I would say there's no... Yeah, and I agree. I feel like this is one question that's like asked very frequently. It's like, when should I start posing? Mm-hmm. And look, yesterday, there's no better time than now is my answer to that always. Especially because it's like, you can have the most amazing physique, but if you don't showcase it properly, it doesn't matter, essentially. So posing also builds your confidence on stage if you're not used to being on stage, having this, like being the center of attention for, a few minutes. It's never too early to start posing. Even if you think you want to compete in 2 years, literally start practicing now. You know what I mean? So that's kind of always my biggest thing. I feel like posing is the biggest part of a prep, and it's the most undermined or forgotten thing in prep too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's the most likely to be skipped activity in prep, I think, because it is different. It's a little uncomfortable unless we're someone who really loves it, which usually we develop through experience and practice and time. It's a little weird. Most of us compete because we like to train and we can deal with the eating and the cardio. So yeah, posing is most often the thing that gets skipped. And then what new competitors fail to realize is you're not actually showing what you have. And it's you do this whole prep, dieted, starved yourself, did all your cardio, ate all your meals just to show maybe 70% of what you actually have. So it's a travesty, in my opinion.
100%.
Actually,
so with that being said, sign up for Pretty posing lessons.
Yeah, and if you're in Southern California, we do have an August 3rd San Diego posing seminar. There's still space, but it's with us two, Petra and Mandeezy, the wellness pros, as well as Marissa Wu. So we do anticipate it's going to fill up like it did last time. So sign up, come pose with us. We'd love to see you. And one little side note, I'm super excited. I posed with Phoebe yesterday. She's someone that I think really understands my body as a fellow very tall competitor. And we tweaked my model pose. So I'm going to start hitting my model pose a little differently.
Ooh.
So that's exciting.
That is super exciting. Yeah. I love that you're working with her.
Yeah, Phoebe's amazing. I did my 2022 season with her, and that's really, I don't know, that's the season where I've probably done the best as a pro. So I'm excited to be back with her. Yeah, it's good. It's good for the health.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, that is just prime example too, right? You're in your off season. You don't have, a set plan of competing in the next couple months. Like, you're not really sure. You're kind of just taking it as it is, but you're still taking that time to grow and develop your posing, even with no set plan of competing. So even if you're an amateur just starting out, or wherever you're at in your competition journey, in an off season, in a prep, whatever, again, not too late, too early. Like, there's always a purpose and a reason to practice your posing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's see. The question I had, this is an interesting one. How do you track your heart rate during cardio?
I have a Garmin Venue 2. So I use this little guy here and track my heart rate. It has like all of the different cardio sets and things like that. So I would suggest utilizing some sort of watch, whether it be, I don't even know if Fitbit does heart rates, but Apple Watch, Samsung, Garmin, Fitbit, whatever it is. And again, keep in mind that I don't know what the accuracy percentage or the accuracy rate is, but I know that it's more accurate than gym equipment. So don't rely heavily on the little bars on the gym equipment, because that's not going to be as accurate of a reading as a smartwatch or a watch is going to be. What it's also going to do is allow you to look back on your data. If you have the app that connects to it, you're going to be able to look back on your data over time of like, all right, a week ago, where was my heart rate at? How many calories was I burning? Things like that. What's my progression been over time? You just collect more data. You have more data to really kind of fine tune your work, your training, things like that. So I think definitely utilizing a smart watch of some type to track workouts and cardio progress is important.
Yeah, absolutely, Sammy. And I'm right there with you. I have the Venue SQ. I used to have an Apple Watch, but I got sick of it and I wasn't really using it for anything except for steps and heart rate. So I was like, why do I have this?
Yeah.
And sometimes you're also going to be doing cardio where there is no option to hold on to a machine. If you're using, say, a spin bike, if you're running outdoors or running on a treadmill, if you're running, you can't hold on to the machine. So there are going to be times where it's really great to have that watch or some form of heart rate monitor. Maybe an Oura ring. I don't use my Oura ring that much. But I think that might do it too. So having some type of data point to just make sure you're intense enough. Like, I had a client recently was going through her cardio and the settings she was doing of all of it, and just kind of realized like, oh, this intensity is not enough. Like, we need to increase your settings because it looks like your heart rate might be a little too low. So yeah, it's a very valuable tool to make sure you're in the spot where you want to be.
Yeah, 100%. And I remember too, like, this literally just happened to me 2 nights ago. I went to go use my stationary bike at home, and I looked down at my watch to turn it on, and it was dead. And I was like, what do I do? Like, how do I know what my heart rate is? Like, how do I know if I'm doing this right? Mm-hmm. And it literally, I just kind of had to play it by ear. I was like, all right, well, I know that if at this cadence, at this speed is what I'm usually doing. So I kind of just lined it up for that. So it's like, my watch is my end all be all of my cardio. Don't get me wrong. But if it's dead, I still, try to do it by feel of what I usually do, if that makes sense. So yeah, but definitely it's better to have it than to not.
Yeah, for sure.
What is your biggest tip for a first-time competitor?
There's so many.
I know.
Yeah, there's so many, but the main thing I think when you're a brand new competitor is to have high standards for yourself. I think you shouldn't be setting yourself up to slack on any area of your prep. You shouldn't be making unauthorized tweaks to your meal plan. You should not be skipping cardio or doing cardio at a lower intensity than what will be the result. Training should be on point. Sleeping should happen. If you can't do all those things, I would question why you're in prep. And I know that everyone's intentions are different, right? Some people, I think, compete just because they want to be on stage in a sparkly bikini, and or maybe to lose weight. Maybe just weight loss is their goal, and they're using competition as that vehicle to do that. But regardless, it's a competition, and no one really wants to go up there in basically your underwear and lose or not do as well as you could have. So I think for any new competitor, really making sure you understand what's required and that you're setting yourself up to give everything 100% and not giving yourself a pass of like, oh, well, it's, I'll just eat a little extra, compared to what's on my meal plan. I'm really hungry. That shouldn't matter. I think whatever habits you start out competing with, and I say this just because I've seen it. If you start out with bad habits, I think you're going to propagate those habits into the future because that's your reference point of how you started, of how you've done. I think it's very hard to start competing with a lot of bad habits or slacking off, if you want to call it that, and then course correct later.
Yeah, especially
the people that go far. Yeah, the people that go far usually have been on their shit from their very first show.
Yeah, and to not just your routine, but your relationships, like all aspects, like really just identifying where you are at in life, financially, relationship, mentally, schedule, all of those things. I think you said it best, like understanding what is required of you in terms of time and effort to be put in to make it to the stage, and making sure that fits for you. Fit fit competing into your schedule. Don't fit your schedule around competing, right? So it's like, because, and I say that lightly because you don't want to stress yourself out because it doesn't fit in your schedule, right? You don't want to have to skip posing because it doesn't fit in your schedule. And that knowing that that's something that's required of you, knowing that an hour to an hour and a half of training is required a day. It could be anywhere up to 30 or an hour plus of cardio a day, 30 minutes of posing, things like that. Like just understanding what the time breakdown is, and then really realistically sitting down and being like, all right, does this work for me? Can I really truly put 100% in to accomplish this? And then just making sure, I think, too, that your relationships are stable, right? You don't want any extra levels of stress. You want to understand, you want to know that you understand what's required of you. And if you have a partner or parents or family, whoever, they understand also what's required of you too. And we have a whole episode on, prepping with family and relationships and things like that. So that's a good one to watch if you're unsure of that area. But I definitely think that that's definitely a huge one before starting.
Yeah, you're spot on there, Sammy. And I think another thing too is the financial piece. I think some people start prepping not realizing what it actually entails. And I think it's really irresponsible to be prepping and doing shows, say, especially if you've got a family, kids, and you're having 100%. To choose between bills and competing. Just my opinion. Maybe this will trigger some people, but I don't think you should be doing it. Like, if you can't truly afford it, don't do it. As a new competitor, it's different. Like, let's say you are a top athlete in the sport or something already, and you have, you're having a hard time financially. I see that as different because you're likely making your income from being in fitness and being a top athlete. But when you're brand new and you're getting started, you should not put your livelihood or your family's well-being below
on the back burner for it
in terms of priorities. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, especially too, because especially if you're in a relationship where you have, multiple people relying on you, because you're making a selfish decision for yourself. And I'm just going to flat out say this. And again, if this upsets someone, then maybe it's hitting home for a reason. But you're not only putting that burden on yourself, you're then involuntarily putting that burden on somebody else that didn't sign up for this. And I think that goes with relationships too, like going back to the whole relationship thing, right? Like, you're choosing to do this because you want to do it without understanding the negative effects or it could have on somebody else, like in terms of your emotions, your attitude, things like that, in addition to the finances. So I think just really looking at the big picture of it, a lot of people, like you said, they just think of like, oh, I want to step on stage. I want to do this because everyone's doing it and it looks fun. And who doesn't want to put on a sparkly bikini and get on stage?
Yeah.
But it's like, there's way more to it than that. And two, it's like, are you going to do it once and stop? Did you just spend all of this money to do it one time and then never do it again? Do you have intentions of continuing? What is your end goal from this? And you don't have to have the intention of wanting to do this for the rest of your life. Like, again, it's not for everybody, but understanding that there's ways to go about it that are smart and strategic if you are not going to do it for the rest of your life, right? Like, you don't want to affect all of the current relationships you have and just throw them out the window because of one prep for 12, 16, 18 weeks and one 24-hour show day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point. So there's a lot we could probably talk about for that one. The next question I had, Sammy, is your day of food on a plate.
Day of food on a what? Sorry, you cut out.
Day, you're basically your day on a plate. So like, what do you eat in a day?
Okay. I've got two because I got high carb days and low carb days. But typically my day consists of, I'll do like rice cakes and peanut butter pre-workout. Post-workout, I'll do either rice cakes and peanut butter with egg whites or oats and peanut butter with egg whites, depending on the carb level. And then first meal after that, or I guess third meal, is chicken and asparagus, sometimes in a lettuce wrap or sometimes with rice. And then I have ground turkey with asparagus, and I put the dill pickle Frank's Red Hot sauce on there, either with lettuce on a low carb day or rice on a high carb day. And then shrimp. So shrimp is always lettuce wraps, which is phenomenal. And I usually do like asparagus and like mushrooms and onions for that one.
Nice.
And then if I have the room, I'll do another rice cake and peanut butter before bed as like a little dessert.
There you go. Yes. Lots of rice cakes, peanut butter, and maybe some bags of chicken.
Yeah.
Given the day. Yeah, right now my food it's lower than it usually is in off season. It's around 2,500 calories. And the meal plan that I'm kind of trying to track towards is I start my day with usually oats, egg whites, and either some blueberries or cut up apple that I kind of make into a little pancake thing with some peanut butter, cashew butter. And then my second meal is usually like cream of rice, protein powder, some more fruit, like a little bit of apple, blueberry, something, maybe pineapple. And then I have one beef meal, one chicken or turkey meal. And I'll usually either do rice or potato and some veggies and things like that. And then I usually have a protein shake with peanut butter. And at some point I'm trying to eat eggs at breakfast, but I'm so weird about whole eggs. Sometimes they don't sit right. So I actually hard boil my eggs. And so I usually try to eat a couple eggs in one of the meals. A lot of times I end up in my chicken or beef meal, like on top. And that's about it. You know, that all goes with a set of macros that I'm trying to follow along with as well. So I'm just trying to develop the consistency and eat low FODMAP food since I'm focused on gut health right now. So that's kind of what it's around. So trying to avoid, you know, any like fermentation or any poor digestion going on. I've cut out gluten completely as of last week. So not that I was like eating a lot of gluten before, but really not much. But, you know, if I would go have a burger and fries usually once a week. That was gluten. I would have a dessert. That's gluten. Even certain sauces like soy sauce can have gluten in it. So I'm really paying attention to all the food allergy labels on everything I eat now. And I actually feel a lot better in just 1 week. That's cool.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, and it's really eye-opening, like the low FODMAP. You don't realize like there's actually more on it than you'd expect there to be, and especially like with how specific they get. Like I cut it out now that I'm in prep, but like Chex cereal is gluten-free, and there's like a ton of amazing flavors. And I would do that with like Fairlife milk, so because it's non-dairy. I'm not lactose intolerant, but I have noticed that dairy just doesn't sit well with me, like with most humans nowadays. So I try to stay away from that. So Fairlife is nice. And there's a little bit of higher protein in it. Not that I'm eating it for the protein consumption. It's just an added benefit. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting adjustment to make, especially like in an off season, having to follow something like that so specifically. But you'd be surprised how many things are actually on the list of like what is allowed.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, in that list are things that we think of as health foods, right? Like lots of fruits, lots of vegetables can be inflammatory for certain digestive issues. So it's one of those things you don't really encounter it until you've got an issue or poor digestion or something. But yeah, I'm trying to keep things really simple, and I'm excited that I already feel better in just 1 week, and the clinic should be shipping me all of my supplements and whatnot for better digestion, things like oil of oregano, some things that are enzymatic for my organs and whatnot, just to help really get me back to 100% as quickly as possible. And I'm excited that I don't have to do any antibiotics. So that should make I think the healing process is going to be pretty quick, which I'm glad for.
For sure. Yeah, that's exciting. I don't really we've kind of touched on all of mine. So if you have more.
Yeah. Let me see. I have a few more that I don't think we got to last time. So one was, how low do your fats and carbs go at the back end of prep?
Oh, you cut out really bad.
Do you know your fats and carbs, Sammy?
Sorry, you cut out. I didn't hear the question.
Okay. Yeah, the question is, how low do your fats and carbs go towards the back end of prep? Like towards the end of the prep.
So I would consider myself in the back end of prep right now. My low carb days are 40 grams of carbs and 35 grams of fat.
Oh shit. And then
my high carb days are 115 carb and 35 fat.
Okay. The fats are actually, I feel like, not crazy low.
Yeah, no, fats aren't that bad. It's definitely, so we're carb cycling, so we're focusing more on the carbs than anything else. And then, I mean, so fats are pretty moderate, which is nice. Like, I still have really good, I mean, like, I don't have like brain fog or anything, which is nice. So I feel like cognitive function is still there. It's just energy levels overall are what is like plummeting, but it's just one of those things where like, it's one of those things in prep. It's when you know it's going to happen, you expect it. You know, and I feel like that is something like that. I don't want to like pull one of those like titles that it's like, it doesn't get talked about enough, but it's like, it's not a shock, right? Like, we know that in prep, your macros can get really low or your meal plan can get really low. So it's like, knowing that that's a possibility, keeping a positive mindset, understanding why your calories are getting low, why your cardio is getting high. And I feel like I've learned that was like my biggest thing this prep, right? And like, I'm very vocal with Chris, like every time I get my check-ins back and I'm like, I see that notification pop up and I'm like, fuck. I'm like, do I really want to open this? Like, do I really want to see what my feedback is on my check-ins? Like, what's going to happen this week? And it's like, and I say that out loud and Chris is like, you know what's going to happen. He's like, you know just as well what that message is going to say before you open it and read it. He's like, so why are you putting yourself like, and this like obviously like is encouraging, not like he's, you know, whatever. But it's like, you know what you're expecting. You know what to expect. You've done this before. Why are you going to sit here and, yeah, of course, I'm sure you're upset that you have to eat less food. Who wouldn't be, right? But it's like, you have a goal. You signed up for this. So open that, read it, execute it. Simple as that. It's like when you sit there and like, and I've done it a handful of times, like I've literally opened up check-in responses and started crying. Not this prep, but like before in the past. And it's like, why are you getting so upset when you knew this is what was going to happen? And it's just like, because I went into it with such a negative mindset of like, why? Well, why? Because you signed up for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's like,
that happens one time. Sorry.
Exactly. Or, oh, have you pushed on your cardio? Like, did you eat an extra tablespoon of peanut butter? Like, what is it that you did in this past week that is causing this to happen? You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like that is the biggest, or that has been the biggest growth for me from last preps to this prep, is understanding I signed up for this. I wanted this. And I'm going to do what I have to do it. Instead of sitting there being upset about it. Woe is me. Why is this happening to me? This is happening to me because I asked for it. I signed up for it. You know what I mean? And it's very similar to like the last Q&A that we had. It's like, you're not owed a cheat meal. You're not owed anything. You know, the process is the process. So it's like,
yeah. And if you're not, and taking a step back, it's like, yeah, if your cardio is going up and your food is going down, it's because you're not lean enough yet. Right. And as we diet, our body has a lot of hardwired biological mechanisms that downregulate our metabolism, right? As we're dieting, as we're losing weight, our organs slow down in their functioning. Our heart beats slower. We take less breaths. And those are things we cannot control. So naturally, your body's downregulating its calorie output to shrink the size of the calorie deficit. And so you have to keep increasing it until you're where you need to be. And that's a good point, Sammy. I don't think I've ever been that emotional about the changes. When I'm in it and I'm tired, I will definitely get emotional. But I think I was with Kimbo for such a long time that I just knew his process. I knew I was like, basically every week he's going to up my cardio or drop my food or both. But it's not going to be by a lot. And it's kind of, I can handle it. And then if you had some great weeks where you're just dropping, he might actually give you a week where it's like nothing changes and you're just like, oh, hallelujah, this is incredible. But yeah, it's tough. But the thing with prep is, and maybe for newer competitors, because you and I know this because we've done this, we've gotten to the level where we turn pro. You are gonna be hungry. That's part of it. You're gonna be hungry. You're gonna be tired. That's part of it. You don't get shredded as a woman on accident. You have to be in a big calorie deficit. And I think sometimes newer athletes, they hear one-off stories of outliers, or maybe athletes who are not disclosing that they're taking a boatload of PEDs that are increasing their metabolism and they're eating a lot, right? They hear these one-off stories and they think, oh, that should be me. That's not you. That's the exception. We're just assume that you're the rule, not the exception. And part of prep is being hungry and learning to deal with it. If you can't deal with it, you're not going to either one, you'll start self-sabotaging and cheating on your diet, or two, you won't make it all the way through. You'll quit, or you'll, find some other reason why you don't want to do it. And it's part of it. Like this is a dieting process. And I know there's people that are now throwing in things like semaglutide and whatnot into prep to be less hungry, but there are real risks of that. So we already might be doing enough otherwise that it's like, do we really want to introduce somewhat new compounds where we don't have a lot of historical data into the cocktail of other chemicals you're already putting in your body because you can't deal with being a little bit hungry?
Yeah. And two, it's like you were saying, because they heard a story about somebody else, but it's like, what did that person's off season look like? How strict are they in off season? What is their training regimen? What is their meal plan? Like I see a lot, and you and I talked about this, but like I'm part of a Facebook group of competitors, and someone literally just posted the other day, what does your off season look like? I feel like I'm being too strict. Off season is just another season. It's not a pass. And and it's funny because I will flat out say this. I am in this prep dealing with the repercussions of how I handled my off season. And I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but I can truthfully say I didn't take my off season as serious as I should have, which is why I am dieting down as much as I'm dieting down. Like where I'm at was not always the intention. The intention was to get my calories as high as possible in off season so I didn't have to go super low and prep again. But based on my decisions and the choices that I made, obviously I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. I did what I did. Now I'm, dealing with it.
Yeah.
But it's like, what does her off season look like? Does she stick to her meal plan? Does she eat out every night? Does she eat out maybe once a week with moderation, right? Like she's not binge eating once a week. Is she still training super hard Monday through 5-6 days a week? Like what does her off season look like? What does your off season look like? How serious did you take it? Things like that. So it's like, again, you are the rule, not the exception. Like your process is not going to be the same as other people's processes. So it really just depends.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. For me, I think the lowest in recent years, because we talked about our first shows, I think in the last episode, and my calories got really low, less than 1,000 easily, my first show. But the lowest since then was last season, and I don't think that was my off season. My off season actually did a great job, entered in a really good spot. I think it was just more of the process of dieting and how that was implemented. And my calories, my fats and carbs, I think at the lowest, I think my really low days when I was depleting into shows were like 120 carbs and 20 grams of fat, which was very challenging to deal with because I think I was doing 70 or 75 minutes of cardio. I was doing 75 actually every day. And that was very challenging. I was very exhausted. I had a lot of days where I just wanted to cry or had such a hard time dealing with the hunger, but you push through it knowing that it's literally, I've got to get through today. Tomorrow's a new day. I'll get a good sleep. I might get more food tomorrow, especially in a peak week. So it's, they can get quite low. So this is what you're signing up for. It's not all sunshine and rainbows and cute Instagram posts and sparkly bikinis. There's a lot of work that goes into this. And if you want to look really amazing on stage, you got to be willing to take the bad and the good, the hard parts and the fun parts. And it's I think sometimes people want it too easy, or they're just constantly looking for shortcuts or how do I make this better? It's like, stop looking for shortcuts. Stop trying to make this better. It's don't reinvent the wheel. The process is very straightforward. You just have to follow it. So
100%. And to like, think of it as long-term. Like, it is a long-term sport. It's not just like, in most cases, it's not a one and done. Like, it can be for a lot of people, but like, you're trying to think longevity, right? Like, not how do I get to this one show and that's it. Like, in the grand scheme of it, it is the longevity of it. It is the longevity of maintaining, you know, in an off season so that you can have an easy prep and in the years to come type of thing. So it's like just understanding what it takes all the time, not just in a prep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So the next question that I have here is, would you ever become a judge, amateur, national, or Olympia?
I feel like down the line, yes, with more like experience and knowledge. It just in the industry, I'm still very new to the industry. So I feel like, you know, 30 years down the line, that would definitely be something cool to do. But not in the near future.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Sammy. I think it could be cool later, but being a coach and a judge that's a conflict of interest. So both of us, that's a big part of our livelihood. For me, that's essentially my livelihood. You've got your hands with you in more of a variety of things. And also we're active competitors. So I think both of us, you more so than me, but I think both of us still have more longevity to our careers before we're hanging up the heels. So in my mind, it's not even something that I'm thinking about because I'm still focused on being the best bodybuilder I can be, trying to achieve the goal of becoming the first 6-foot bikini Olympian, all those things. Right. So that's where my mindset is at. And I'm assuming that's the same for you too.
100%. Isn't I feel like you have more credibility as a judge when you have more time and more experience and just more exposure to it in general, because you have more to relate it. You know, you've seen the evolution of the sport. You've seen the trends and the, you know, how it's going over time and things like that. And just I feel like to judge something, you really need to know it through and through. And you don't do that overnight.
Yeah. Because keep in mind, it's not like you're just judging bikini. That's not how it works. If you're gonna judge and you work your way up, it's not like you can just say, oh, I want to be an Olympia judge. No, you have to work your way up from the regional level to the national level, then to the pro level, then to the Olympia. So it's levels, just like in competing.
Yeah.
And you're going to judge all divisions. You're not just going to judge bikini and then go home. You're going to judge the male divisions too. You're going to judge all the female divisions. So you've got to be familiar, not just with one or two of the categories, but all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they do, I don't know too much about it, but I know enough. They do tests. So they do like, you know, I think you kind of, for the most part, I think you have to kind of find a mentor who would help you. And then there are tests. So you do like test judging where you go and your scores obviously aren't counted, but you sit with the panel and you kind of score how you think based on your perception, whatever. And then they actually look at your score and see how you did. And that's how they select, I think, these, you know, next group of judges. And same thing, I think, as you move up through
I didn't know that. I always wondered what that.
Yeah. And I think as you move, I don't know a ton about it, but I know enough that they do test judging and there's a process. So, and I think as you move up the levels, like to go from just regional level to national level, I think there's another like test judging round or something that you'd have to complete to demonstrate that you're well qualified and you've got the right eye for things and all that. So there is a process. It is formal and you've got to have the right skills. It's not just anyone who puts their hand up to be a judge. Yeah,
for sure.
Cool. Maybe we could have a judge on the podcast sometime. Maybe we could have Patrick or who else is local?
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Conroy. She used to be coached by Kimbo. She's one of the local muscle contest judges. Yeah, that would be neat. Maybe we could have Lisa, who was at the show, the Indie Pro show last weekend. Her boyfriend's daughter.
Yeah. Just to see their evolution of like them competing to becoming a judge, like how that journey is. That would be really cool.
Yeah, and they could fill us in on the process where we're maybe I just have some general ideas. I don't have the details. So that would be cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So another question I have a couple more that we could definitely go through. And it is, what should I look for in pre-workout, BCAAs, etc.? Should I avoid sucralose in these products?
I would say number one is the additives, like something that is as little, and I feel like this goes with anything, but like the most natural baseline, like this is what you're getting, this is what's in it, nothing extra. The creation process too. Like I feel like a lot of companies just add fillers into their products. So it's like, yeah, you have the main like citrulline, beta-alanine, caffeine, but like all of the other things that like aren't really necessary. I feel like a lot of companies just put extra fillers in. So I would look for a company that you really resonate with in terms of like morals and ethics, but then also actual key ingredients and the potency of the key ingredients in the product.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of a learning curve there, and these could be great questions to ask your coach too. But I really recommend learning the ingredients in a lot of our basic supplement products. So pre-workouts, pump products, aminos, etc., fat burners. For me, it was really helpful when I was doing promos for mutant supplements from about 2017 to 2020. I would go hang out in these supplement stores and give out samples. And there's this very large supplement store here in Orange County that I would go to all the time. And there are times when it'd be slow or you have inflow, outflow of traffic. And one of this managers was just super knowledgeable. All the staff was actually really knowledgeable. It's a great store. I think it's called Riker's Nutrition now. It used to be OC Discount Nutrition in the past. And I learned so much just from interacting with them. I already knew a little, but I learned so much. The staff was so knowledgeable because even if you have, say, something that's very effective for performance, like beta-alanine, for example, there are several ingredients that are demonstrated in the scientific literature to show performance or muscle strength improvements. And that would be things like beta-alanine, caffeine, creatine. There's not a ton of these things that are proven or at least demonstrated in the scientific literature. Beta-alanine is one of them. However, if your product has a quarter of the effective dose, you're not going to actually get the benefit you think you're getting. So being familiar with what those ingredients do and the effective dose, whether you're an adult male, an adult female, like for example, creatine is one where I would recommend that men take a slightly higher dose than females, but that's something that's been demonstrated. So knowing, like I had a client, actually, she's brand new and she had a creatine and I asked her to send me the label because she wasn't sure how much of a serving she should take. And she sent it to me and each scoop was 1.5 grams. Well, we know that creatine, right, for an adult female needs to be about 5 to 6 grams daily for an effective dose. So she wrote back to me. So I said, okay, you need to take about 3.3 scoops per day. And she goes, wait, so for the last 6 months, I've been taking a third of the dose. And I said, yes, little crying emoji. Because that's the reality. So kind of educating yourself on the ingredients and also what works best for you. Some people are non-stim. I'm a non-stim pre-workout person because I love coffee and I like to drink that in the morning and I'm usually not working out first thing. So when I do go to work out, I like a non-stim. So I get good blood flow and good pumps. And some people really like the super heavily caffeinated pre-workout full of beta-alanine where they're getting the tingles and they're getting that physical feedback that the product is doing something, right? Everyone is different. So just kind of understanding what you're looking for is really important. Like for you, is for an amino, is the taste and the flavor the most important thing, or is it what's in the product, what blend of aminos and what dosages? So I think it's really going to depend. And to the question with sucralose, I would say that just depends on if you digest it well. And you could always check that in a food sensitivity test, but if you don't generally have reactions to sucralose, it's better than using excess regular sugar in your diet and in your supplements.
Yeah. And I would definitely, like you had made the comment for aminos, is it about the flavor or the profile? And I feel like that's where a lot of people get blinded in the supplement industry is that the flavor is so amazing, and they'll actually take the product because the flavor is so amazing, but the quality is trash. And I feel like most companies that have amazing flavors that are like outside of the box don't have the best quality product. So it's really finding like, yeah, we all love brand loyalty, right? But I feel like that's where it's important of like, this company has really good quality, but I'm not like overly obsessed with their flavors. Shop around. Like shop around for a company that you can find both, because it exists, right? Like there are companies that have really good quality products, but also have really, really good flavors too. So just because everybody is drinking or taking supplements from this one brand because it's so popular doesn't mean that that's what you have to take. Shop around and find what works best for you.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I've run into that too with clients, or even for myself, right? There was I think 2 off seasons ago, I was having a lot of the ghost protein in the Oreo flavor, which I would still have. I think at some point I'll probably buy some more of that because it's Oreo flavor. It tastes delicious with cream of rice. That's an easy little dessert hack. But sometimes I'll have clients where they have their favorite protein powder, right? They love the flavor. It's something, it's a cereal or it's something really unique and they love it. But then they'll report in their check-ins that like, man, I'm really having a lot of bloating. It's like, well, you're doing 2, maybe even 3 whey with full dairy shakes per day. So, and you told me that you're dairy sensitive and you're taking in dairy multiple times a day. So I think you should find a different protein powder. Let's go plant-based, or let's at least at a minimum try a whey isolate where the lactose is filtered out. So there are certain things you want to think about, you want to be mindful of. And the biggest thing is probably that whatever supplements you're taking, it works with your digestion, and everyone's going to be a little different there. Different flavorings, different additives. Yeah. Some people are even sensitive to dyes. So some brands use dyes, some will not use any dyes at all and keep things more natural looking. So the products are all clear versus colored.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that too, because everyone's like, oh, it's protein. It's supposed to make you bloated. You're supposed to be, have gas, and this is normal. And it's not. No, it's not. Like, it's just something we've normalized. Like, yes, obviously the breakdown of protein in the body is a little bit harder, but it should not cause bloating. It should not cause excessive inflammation or excessive bloat or excessive gas. Like, that's not normal. Mm-hmm. There are other options. Like you said, if you're dairy sensitive, doing an isolate or plant-based, something like that. So that's where I feel like this normalization of the way we process foods or how it's supposed to affect us is just not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Or some people, I think when they're early on in their fitness or competition journey, they don't even have the awareness of being in tune with their body, or they can't pinpoint what's making them bloated. They just know that, oh, sometimes I get upset stomachs, or sometimes my digestion's off, and they have no clue why. So
yeah.
This is making me think this would be cool to have an expert and somebody in the supplement industry, or maybe we could even do a series of episodes, but this is making me think we could do a whole episode on this. There's so much. So, just a thought. Okay. So the next question I have, Sammy, this is a good one. This is more of a fun one, maybe. What are your top 3 pet peeves as a coach?
I would say if you find a client seeking feedback or input, like publicly, like if you know that your client or someone, like you follow them on Instagram or you're friends with them, you're close with them, right? And you see that they're asking questions or feedback in general, as opposed to coming to you for it specifically. But it's not and only in the sense that it's not a question that they've personally asked you. So like, say you were my coach and I posted on Instagram, or, you know, the three of us, like, we were having a conversation with someone else and it wasn't directed at you, and I asked a question that was like something very well that you should answer for me. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I have clients do this sometimes where they'll ask each other questions instead of asking me. Like, oh, I wasn't sure how to calculate my macros, or I wasn't sure how how to weigh out my food on my food scale, things like that are very specific to your program. And you're right. There are times where people are just soliciting feedback from anyone that will talk to them. That's definitely a flag. There is a thing of too many cooks in the kitchen, and you can't ask feedback from everyone. There's a lot of different coaching approaches, although the process is fairly similar for competing specifically, but everyone has their different methods. So you're going to get all these different answers and just kind of get confused.
Yeah, and your protocols are given to you specifically based on you. So like the intention of your protocol is intended for you and the way I saw it intended.
Yeah.
What else? I feel like that's the one that comes to mind like the most. What else? I guess maybe when I see them trying to overcomplicate something that can be very simplistic. And like, I guess that could be with like meal prepping, right? Like trying to find, I guess that is more so in meal prep, right? Like, and my own sister even does this and I call her out for it all the time. It's like trying to find like almost like loopholes. Like, can I eat this? Like, is this okay? And it's like, if you eat, it's not okay. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. Keep it basic. Like, we can you're in an off season. We can spice it up a little bit. But like when you start to overcomplicate it and make it unattainable, then it's unattainable.
Yeah. Or sometimes I think this is maybe slightly different than what you're saying, but losing sight of the bigger picture. Like I'll have a client who constantly can't stick with some form of structure to their eating. Like they're not following macros, they can't follow a meal plan, they'll go out and have fast food, burgers, pizza, whatever, ice cream, drinks, and then they'll want to, diet for date or an event they have in 1 month, and they'll be like, hey, should I use a waist trainer? Should I use like some sweat gels? And it's like, hey, look, how about we just start by not eating so many burgers and pizza and drinking so much alcohol all the time? How about we just start there? Because the waist trainer is not going to do much if you're going out and binge drinking and eating all the foods you could ever want every weekend. So just kind of like losing sight of the big picture. And because it's almost like they want that silver bullet or that quick fix of like, oh, the waist trainer is the piece that's missing, not the fact that I have a horrible diet and I have no structure.
Yeah, I was just going to say. Or two, I find sometimes and this is more so people with families, is like, my family is such a sugar eater. They're sugar eaters. And I feel like, and granted, so what I'm going to say and then what I'm going to follow it up with is going to be slightly contradicting. If it's, maybe the father or the male or the female does the grocery shopping. You pick what your family eats. You buy it, they eat it. And I know this because I grocery shop for my family. So whatever I buy at the store is what my family eats. If I buy them healthy snacks, well, that's going to be all that's in the pantry for them to eat. If I buy them chips, cookies, and brownies, that's what's going to be in the pantry for them to eat. So these habits that we're creating for them to be sugar eaters or certain, whatever, is because we've implemented it. It's what they've seen. So it's like dieting is really hard for me because my family is a sugar eater. Well, they're only sugar eaters because you did that. You know what I mean? So it's like changing the habits for everybody. Like I remember when I first moved to California, I would ask Jacob what he wants to eat for dinner. And he's like, chicken, rice, and broccoli. And I'm like, what? And it's because that's what Chris ate all the time. Like, he was in the height of everything. So like, that's what he ate. So it was like a monkey see, monkey do. Jacob was 6 asking for chicken, rice, and broccoli for dinner. Like, it's crazy. So it's like, just understanding that, like, you make your own decisions. Like, no one else is making those for you. Like, and utilizing that or making that as an excuse as to why you're unable to accomplish something is...
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a bigger theme of blaming, like almost like blaming others for your choices. Because I'll have this come up with clients sometimes, like especially several times in the last few weeks, because it's a holiday week, right? So we're spending time with family, we're on vacation, and they'll say, oh, well, I'm with my friend, so I couldn't follow my macros, or I couldn't be on track because I'm with my friends. It's like, hey, look, your friends don't decide what goes in and out of your mouth. Like, it's up to you. You get to decide what you eat. So you don't have to participate. I know I said that weird. It's fine.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah. But it's one of those things. It's like, you don't have to partake and do what everyone else is doing. Like, it's that old saying our parents would say to us when we're growing up. It's like, if all your friends jumped off a bridge, would you jump too? And then you say, no, it's not, you'd say whatever defensive teenage thing you'd say. It's the same idea. You don't have to do what your friends are doing. Just because your friends are drinking a lot of alcohol does not mean you have to drink a lot of alcohol. Just because your friends are eating no vegetables and eating a big surplus of calories does not mean that's what you have to do. You get to tell them, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. If they give you a hard time for what you're doing, you just say it in a way where it's like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. No nonsense. Nice and confident, and let them know that, hey, there's a boundary there and I'm not going to take your pushback. And a lot of times friends like that anyway are people who are not fit. People who are fit are going to just generally be supportive and encouraging. So you shouldn't be blaming other people for your choices. Like, even if you do have a family that's buying all these snacks, you get to choose whether you're eating them or not, Sammy. Like, just because Chris or Jacob might be having snacks doesn't mean you're going to. You're on prep. You have goals. You wouldn't cheat on your diet just because they're eating something. So
exactly.
It is what it is. Yeah, I agree. I think in general, what some of these underlie for me is, I would call it more of just a negative mindset or almost self-sabotaging behavior. And we all go through this sometimes. We all self-sabotage a little bit, typically in some areas of our life. But I think the people who refuse to challenge themselves or get out of their negative mindset, to me, that's a huge pet peeve. Those people, kind of no matter what you do, you're going to be unsuccessful at it. Like, if you have a negative mindset about work or about relationships or fitness, whatever that is, you're going to find a way to prove yourself right if you don't work on changing your mindset. So for me, that is a huge pet peeve. We're all malleable. We're all human. We are all open to growth and learning new behaviors and new habits. And if you're so set, like, what's that saying? It's like, if you fight hard enough for your boundaries, you get to keep them. I think that's such a tricky question. If you fight hard enough to stay the same, you will. So people who can't get out of that negative or self-limiting mindset is a huge pet peeve for me, just because it's a very clear sign that they're not ready to change yet, or that they may never change.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
What else? I think the last one, we've listed at least 3 between this. I think the last one I'll say is just lack of communication. So just, client who either kind of ghosts or is very stressed out, and then will wait, even just waiting, even if you're doing weekly check-ins, you wait an entire week to tell your coach that you're having a nervous breakdown and you feel like you're constantly going to cheat on your diet, or, something awful happened. You're missing opportunities for them to help you. So making sure that you're communicating. If you have questions, asking questions, like all that, it's so basic.
Yeah, for sure. And just understanding, like, you paid for the service, so utilize it. Like, that is what coaches are there for, is to walk you through processes. Even if you think like, oh, this isn't that major, I can figure it out on my own, or it can wait. And then it turns out to be something that is going to have more of a long-term effect if it doesn't get corrected or fixed, or, bad habits can form from it. It's important to just, even if you think something's super minor, message your coach. If it takes them a day to get back to you, then it takes them a day to get back to you, but just know that you still reached out in a timely manner to get that answer.
Yeah. 100%. We're on the same page. So those were essentially the questions I had. Some of the ones were repeats from last time, or I had the same questions a few times. So I think we can wrap it up here, Sammy, and let you go do whatever you need to do at 15 days out now? 14 days out?
Yeah, 14 tomorrow, so 15.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting. I'm excited for you. I'm excited.
I'm excited.
Yeah. If you need anything, text me. So we'll wrap it up here.
Probably.
If you need a pep talk, whatever it may be. So thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, like the video if you're listening on an audio platform, rate, review, subscribe, and as always, share with a friend so the podcast can grow. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.